Hi, I'm Annette Marcus, and I'm welcoming you to AIB's It Tastes Jewish. And if you have any questions or would you like to see the recipes, you could check out www.aibtv.com/It Tastes Jewish. Today is baking day, and we're going to make two wonderful desserts called Mandel Bread and Rugelach. Mandel Bread and Rugelach are two of the most favorite desserts for Jewish people. We love to have these kind of pastries at Sunday brunch. We have them at bar mitzvah parties in the mornings, and we also have them with coffee all the time. So the first thing that I'm going to make for you is called Mandel Bread. There's a lot of variations of Mandel Bread, but what it basically is just like a biscotti. And inside it, you could put chocolate chips, you could put nuts, you could put fruit, you could put raisins. But today we're going to put some almonds in it, and it's going to be able to slice, and you'll be able to see the whole almonds in the dough. I think you're going to really enjoy this because it's just sweet enough, but not too sweet, and it's a wonderful snack any time of the day. The first thing that we're going to do is to beat our eggs and our sugar and our oil. So I'm taking 1 cup of oil, and I'm going to put it into the mixer. And then I'm going to put my sugar, and I'm going to let that work together in the mixer for a good while until it's blended very good together. So I'm going to add some eggs. Okay, and inside you'll see that it's very nice and fluffy. And I'm going to take the eggs and add them one at a time until they're fully incorporated. So even though I've broken them all up into the bowl, I can control the amount that comes out by just tilting it over the top. Each time you add another one, it's going to get lighter and lighter and more fluffy, which is what you want to happen. And there goes number 3. And then I'm going to put the last one in and let it go for just a couple of minutes. And while it's working, I'm going to add some vanilla. This vanilla is going to give it a nice sweet taste. Okay, I'm going to turn that down for just a minute. And I have here 5 cups of flour. And you want to add this flour rather slowly, because if you put it all into your mixer, it's going to explode everywhere. So you want to take a special, like another extra little bowl or something, or a measuring cup or whatever, and just add it a little bit at a time. And while you're doing that, you can also be adding the baking powder. And this baking powder will aid in the rising of your Mandel bread. So I'm just going to put this in a little bit at a time. I'm going to pull the mixer down a drop and move it over and scoop it in just a little bit and give it a chance to whir around. And then I'll come back and add a little bit more. And you'll have a much smoother batter if you do it this way. Okay, and add a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to put the lemon rind in now, and I'm going to add the almonds as well. Mix it up a little bit more, and it looks a little bit oily and a little bit smooth at the same time. And it's pulled away from the bowl, and it just sort of seems to settle right back down. And then I'm going to scrape around one more time, give it another whirl, and then I'm going to dump it onto my silpat, and I'm going to roll it into 4 distinct rolls, and we're going to bake them to about 30 minutes. I'm gonna take a little bit of flour and I'm putting it on my baking silpat, which is gonna let me roll without getting the cabinet all dirty, and it's also going to give it a nice texture with this flour so that the flour keeps the Mandel bread dough from sticking. I'm gonna take this Mandel bread that's been sitting on the silpat and I'm gonna put it into 4 different sections using my spatula and a little bit of extra flour. A little flour on my hands will help a lot. And it's a very nice, soft, pliable dough. So I try to get the 4 sections cut first before I roll anything out, and this way I can tell whether or not they're all as even as they can be. Because there's something really nice about Mandel bread when you cut it, that it's very satisfying to have all the pieces look very similar. You don't want to have a little big piece, one big piece, one skinny piece, one long piece. So if you start from the very beginning and get your balls all about the same size, then you'll be assured that the Mandel bread pieces are going to come out the same. So this dough will refrigerate very, very nicely for any length of time, 2 or 3 days even if you need to. And then you can take it right out and let it get to room temperature a little bit and start to roll. Okay, I'm just gonna look at my balls and make sure that they're all similar sized. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my baking sheet, which I also have another small silpat on the top, and this way I'm gonna bake it on this and it will help to brown the pieces. So this you'll see, even though you can't imagine that it would, but it rolls out very, very, very easily. It doesn't make a lot of stickiness or anything like that. So you're gonna get to try it about this size, which is about maybe 12 or 14 inches, and you're gonna lay it onto your pan in a nice, narrow piece. And then you can take your time and play with it just a little bit and try to even it out as much as you possibly can. And you could put just 2 on one pan, which gives you an opportunity to have it expand a little bit, which it will. And then you can put the other 2 on another pan. And then they will bake off nice and even. Okay. I'm gonna put this into the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes, and I'm gonna put it right in the middle of my oven. Set my timer and let it go. Then when it gets finished, we're gonna take the pieces and we're gonna cut each one into little individual pieces, put it back in the oven and let it get brown and golden. I'm gonna go to the oven now and get the Mandel bread that's been baking, and then we're gonna take it out and we're gonna slice it. And as you can see how nice and golden brown it is. Now this is gonna be a little bit warm, so it's kind of good to give it a few minutes to settle down and to get a little bit cooler. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna remove it from the silpat and you're gonna put it onto your cutting board. You could use the silpat, you could use a cutting board, you could use your granite, whatever it is that you have on hand. And we're gonna take it off very slowly. Take a knife and release it a little. And if it breaks, it's okay because we're gonna cut it into pieces anyway. Okay. So now that it's on the cutting board, we're gonna take our knife and I'm gonna just cut it a little bit on the diagonal. And I'm gonna take my knife and go from front to back. And this will help to eliminate any crumbs or breaking apart. You can cut these as large as you wish, or you can cut them narrow, but you can see that each one of the pieces is going to be about the same size. And if you make them a little bit larger like this, they really work nicely for dunking. So I'm gonna cut each one of these, and then I'm gonna place it back on to the cookie sheet, and I'm gonna place it down like this so that each one of the pieces can get brown again. This little end piece, which actually is the best piece of all, I have to cut that off so that it lays flat. So you can see that the dough inside is not quite done, and that's why we're going to put them into brown for another 15 or 20 minutes. And then you can cut this little tiny end off if you want to for the last little piece. Okay, I'm going to release this one, place it on the board, and also cut it too. And we'll take them back out in about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. You'll have to watch carefully, and they're going to be nice and golden brown. And then I'm going to put them on a plate with a little decoration, and you'll see how nice they came out. I'm going to get the Mandel bread that's been browning in the oven now. It looks beautiful. It's nice and golden brown, just like we like. So I'm going to just put it right over here and take a few pieces off and let them cool for a minute. You can see that they get beautiful golden color to them, and they're nice and firm, and you'll also tell that they would dunk perfectly in a cup of tea or coffee. Now I'm going to take a little platter and put them over here and arrange them like this. I like to make them go all the same way. Put all the little round pieces to one side. Decorate it with a little flour. And then they're all ready and handy to have when guests come by. To store these, you can store them in a tin, like an old coffee tin or a holiday tin of some kind, and you don't have to refrigerate them or freeze them, and they will stay in your tin for weeks at a time. If you do want to freeze them though, they can go right into the freezer in any type of a Tupperware. Put a little layer of wax paper over the top to keep all the moisture out, and you can freeze them up to 1 or 2 months. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to place a couple by my tea. I'm going to get my lemon lift and get ready for a nice afternoon snack. I hope you've enjoyed making Mandel bread. It's been a lot of fun for me. The next recipe that I'm going to make for you is rugelach. And rugelach was made by my mom and my grandmother in our family for years and years and years. At first, you were a little intimidated because you have to prepare the dough and you have to roll it, and you want it to be precise and you want it to be the right size. But the most fun of all is just smelling the wonderful, rich brown sugar and jelly that's cooking in the oven and being able to see those adorable little crescents come to life. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is to put some flour into my mixer. I'm going to go gently. And then I'm going to be adding some baking soda. And I'm going to put a little bit of yeast in here too, which is going to help our dough to rise. And I'm going to whir this around in the mixer for just a few minutes while I'm getting my butter ready to cut and put into the bowl. So what I'm going to do with the butter is I'm going to just open it up like this and cut it into little squares so that each piece can go evenly into the recipe. And the first thing that I do is cut straight down, moving it away from the knife. And the next one is I turn it over, line it back up, cut it again. And then I take each piece and cut it into little squares, the exact same size, and this way it'll incorporate into the flour very evenly and make nice fine little crumbs. And what you want to look for is the butter to be totally incorporated and for the crumbs to look as if it were just the flour. So you got to give it a couple of minutes to do that. On light medium speed. No need to rush it, and it will incorporate slowly and evenly. And while that's working, I'm going to take some sugar and a little bit of salt and some buttermilk. And 1 tablespoon of yeast, which is already in here, is working to make my crumbs nice and even. So it's just about ready. So I'm going to turn it off for just a second and get my wet ingredients ready. I'm going to take 3 eggs and I'm going to break them in one at a time and just going to use the yolks this time. And so I'm just going to let the whites fall into the bowl and drop the egg yolk into the milk mixture. And I'm very careful to catch just the yolk and let the white fall right off. Okay, and then I'm going to take my knife and or a fork or whatever you have handy, mix it together. And if you don't happen to have any buttermilk on hand, which is, don't usually use it in many recipes, you could take 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, pour it into your measuring cup, and then continue to add the milk until it measures up to 1 cup and let it sit for about 10 minutes and you will already have buttermilk without having to buy an entire quart or a gallon of buttermilk and have it go to waste. Okay, so I'm going to take these wet ingredients and pour them into the mixer with it going quite lightly. And you're going to see that the dough is going to start to pull away from the sides, and it's going to incorporate all the crumbs in the bottom. I'm going to take one pass around, and get all of the items from the sides. Away from the mixer paddle. Give it a turn. Let everything come together. Okay. Now with this dough right here, you're going to let it sit in the refrigerator overnight or for at least 3 or 4 hours. And the purpose of that is for helping to roll the dough. The dough is going to roll a lot better if it's chilled. The butter will become chilled again and it will get more firm and solid. So when you use your rolling pin to roll out the little circles and then cut them for the crescent shapes, you'll have a much easier time. I'm going to spread a little flour. I'm going to dump the dough down. And always get whatever's left in the pan, because if your recipe doesn't get it, then the garbage can will, and you might as well enjoy what you've taken a lot of time to bake. Okay, now I'm going to get it together and pat it into a little circle. And you can see how nice it sticks together. First, I'm just going to cut it into like about 4 pieces. And then I'm going to cut it again into 8. And then I'm going to take a little piece off of each one and make my 9th ball. And we're going to roll it up together in a little tiny ball, and then we'll just line them up. And if they're like the size of a tennis ball, and if you think one is a little bit too big, you can just pinch some off and you'll add it to the next one. Now again, if you do not have time to roll this out at this time, you can stick these in the refrigerator. They can go in overnight, they can go in for a couple of days, and when you get finished, you'll see that your dough will be nice and firm and ready to roll. So I'm gonna just place these into a bowl in the refrigerator and let them get chilled. And then we're going to roll out the dough after these balls get chilled for at least a couple of hours. Now I'm going to go into the refrigerator and get the dough that's been chilling for a couple of hours. And you can see the difference in the texture because it's nice and firm. That means that the butter has gotten all nice and hard again, and it's incorporated into the dough. It's just gonna make the rolling out very nice. I'm gonna take the flour and put it onto the silpat and even it out a little bit. And let my dough rest for a minute or two. And I'm gonna get my filling, because this is what makes it so delicious. It has a wonderful smear of a jam of any flavor. You could put raspberry, apricot, orange marmalade, or even strawberry. And then this is just one filling that my mom has always enjoyed that she passed down to me. It contains brown sugar, chopped pecans, raisins, and cinnamon. You can use all kinds of different fillings if you wish. You could put chocolate chips inside. You could use almonds. You could use walnuts. You don't have to put as many nuts in, and you could use more dried fruits like prunes chopped up, or dried mango, or dried craisins, or any type of dried fruit that you like. Dried apricots are also delicious in rugelach. You can see that it's just a beautiful dough with a wonderful jam filling with lots of dried fruits and nuts. So I've mixed all of these chopped nuts together, and the way that I got the nuts was I just put them in the Cuisinart and just chop, chop, chop until they were nicely uniform. And the same thing with the raisins. I put the raisins on the cutting board and I just chop them, because if you put them in whole, it's going to be too big for the delicate piece of pastry that you are preparing. So I'm going to take my chilled dough and I'm going to give it a nice little pat like this. I'm going to make sure that my flour is nearby, and I'm just going to pat it out with my palm until it's a nice round shape. And once I get it into the round shape, I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to just roll on the right side. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to roll on the right side again. Get all four sides as even as possible. If it's easier for you, you can take a little piece of wax paper, and you could cut out the size of the wax paper that you want your rugelach to be, and you can just use it each time as a template until you get used to the size. This size right here is probably about maybe 6 inches, maybe 7 inches across. And it's going to be a perfect size to get the rugelach into the delicate shape that we want. Of course, you can make them bigger if you want to, but you don't really need to, because each one is very flavorful. So now that I have a very nice round piece, I'm going to take some jam. And if your jam has a lot of large pieces of fruit in it, you can put it into the Cuis for a few minutes and let it get a little bit less chunky, because the bigger the chunks are, it's harder to roll the crescents. So you spread this jam just about almost to the edge, leaving about maybe 1/4 to 1/2 an inch on the edges. You don't want to get the jam all the way to the edge, because it's just going to leak out while it's baking. So you spread it around, and then you take a little bit of your filling, start in the middle, and push it out toward the edge. If you start on the edge, you're going to end it up all over your board. So if you start in the middle and push it out just to where it touches the jelly is going to act like a glue, and it's going to hold this wonderful cinnamon brown sugar mixture that you have. So now that this filling is on all of the pieces of the jam, I'm going to take a plastic knife, because I prefer not to use a sharp knife on my silpat, and I'm going to divide this into 12 pieces. Make sure they're a little separated, and now you're ready to go. So now we're going to take one piece and just pull it away a little bit, and you're just going to roll it like you would do any type of a crescent shape, a crescent roll, or any type of a piece of crescent. And you're going to place it seam side down, because this will keep it from expanding and opening out while baking. And I'm going to line these up pretty close together. They don't have to be far apart, because they don't go too far. They're not going to expand everywhere. And we're going to put them in the oven, and they're going to bake until they're golden brown. And always remember to put the seam side down. So just roll slowly. And you want to take this first piece right here and get that a nice tight roll. And then use your finger and press down on the mixture so that it goes in evenly. And then you're just gonna repeat this process for each one of the doughs. And my suggestion is to leave the doughs into the refrigerator until you need them. And this way, in case it takes a little bit of time, or if you have to stop, or if you have to answer the phone, the dough will still be a nice, uniform consistency. You can always just wipe your hands off and go back to the refrigerator and get another piece. Okay, so now that I've rolled out my rugelach, I'm going to place them into the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes. I'm smelling the rugelach, so I'm going to go to the oven real quick and see what's going on. Yep, it's ready. Golden brown and delish. So I'm going to put my pan right here on the cooling rack for a minute. And I'm going to take each one of them off very carefully. You see how easily they slide right off of the sill pad. It's very, very worth it. I'll put them right here for a minute to cool. Each one is the right size and very golden brown. Then I'm going to take a little bit of powder. First, I'll place them onto my plate. And then I'm going to take a little powdered sugar and put it over each one of them. It's best to put the powdered sugar on right after they cool. And this way the powdered sugar will stay on. And if you decide to freeze these, which you're more than welcome to, you can put some more powdered sugar on them after they come out of the freezer. Once in a while, they look like they need another extra sprinkling. So you can just take your powdered sugar shaker and add some extra right before serving. These will freeze the best if you do not use them in 1 or 2 days. And if you decide, you can put them in a Tupperware and they will stay beautifully for 1 or 2 months. So I'm going to take a little flour and decorate my tray. It's always more inviting. And now you have your rugelach ready for your guests. So I hope you'll enjoy these as well. I wouldn't put these in the coffee because you're going to have a big mess, but have them on the side. For recipes and other information, please visit us at www.aibtv.com/ittastesjewish. For questions or comments about the programming, please contact us at programming@aibtv.com. Looking forward to seeing you the next time on It Tastes Jewish.